The Leave Your Legacy podcast is brought to you by Covenant Workplace Solutions. Covenant is a full-service workplace mental health and wellness partner, helping organizations across the country strengthen the lives of their employees and the families they go home to every day. Your employee assistance program should raise the bar, not simply check the box. And Storyline Multimedia. Storyline is an Iowa City-based media company that creates high-quality video, photo, and audio for local businesses. They produce a number of great podcasts, including this one. If you're interested in sharing your story, please contact them at storylinemultimedia.com. And remember, your story matters. Welcome to the Leave Your Legacy show. I'm Kenyon Murray, your host. And because we are coming into spring, it's prime time for youth sports to be jumping off, whether kids are playing baseball, soccer, basketball. This is a time of year where all this stuff kicks up. And as a parent of athletes, man, it can be pretty daunting. But one of the things we want to talk about today is mental health and as it pertains to youth sports. And I think obviously mental health is something that as a family, we're behind. We're hoping to be a light for them when it comes to dealing with mental health and wellness. And I think sports is great, but it also can create some things and create some dynamics that mental health becomes some sort of a challenge. And so today we're going to talk about a few of those things, the positives and negatives of what sports do for our youth, and then hopefully some things that we can give to you, the audience, parents of all these young athletes. We want to give you, the viewers, parents of these young athletes, some tips and how you can maybe identify some things that are occurring. And then how do you work with your athlete to get through them? So we know the positives of youth sports are manyfold, right? Your fitness, fun, interaction, learning to take direction, friendships, all those things are super positive. Sports also can give us a very positive self-image of ourselves, but it also can force us to look at ourselves and doubt creeps in, or negative self-images, because there's a lot of sports that are reliant on physical strength and those kind of things. And if we have an athlete that may not be as good as some of the athletes on his team, like that can really get to him. So the positives, man. I know for me as an athlete growing up, I wasn't a basketball player my entire life. I was blessed to be able to play at the University of Iowa and then go on to play professionally. But growing up, I was more focused on my academics. I played classical viola for 7 years. I was a drawer. I love art, like going to art museums, doing drawings, those are kind of things. But I had someone introduce me to basketball. And through that, like basketball created this whole new persona almost. And basketball gave me so much confidence because when I was in that element, like that was my thing. And really the weight of the world kind of lifted off my shoulders when I was playing basketball. And so I know athletics for children and youth, even into young adulthood, it can give us this sense of confidence, this sense of this is where I belong. And it creates an image of like, this is me. But in that same thing, you don't want that sport to define you. And that's where we get into some of the pitfalls of playing sports. And for a lot of youth, they're identified by that. And it can be kind of a slippery slope when things don't go well. And this is the one thing that defines you. Like, how do you work through that? And so let's talk about some of the things that can come up and then some of the tips that we can give you guys to maybe work through those. So one of the first things that I've seen with athletes is how they associate their worth with winning, right? When they get into sports, it's usually for fun. We want them to get out and interact with other kids. As parents, we kind of see like, if your kid has some kind of aptitude for a sport, you're like, okay, I want to get them in that. So, let's see how they do. But then as they age and the Y leagues become more competitive leagues, and then the competitive leagues turn into travel sports, like there is such a precedent on winning that when a team loses, that athletes really puts them on themselves. Like, I was the reason we lost, or I didn't play well. And as parents, let's be real. For us to travel now and be in these tournaments, like there's a little bit of a financial obligation to getting our kids in these sports. And so we want them to go out and do the best. But there's a lot of times as parents, and I've been there, where we're like, we got to win, more emphasis is put on that. But now if we as coaches and parents are upset when our kids don't win, and we focus on the loss more than we do with the fact that our kids went out there and did their best, they put their best foot forward. Maybe they didn't shoot the ball well. That's okay. But now we've created this place where these kids are like, my mom and dad or my coach is only happy when we win. That starts to weigh on them. And then one loss turns into two losses. Two losses may turn into a weekend where you didn't win a game. And now we come back to that next week of practice where we got to focus on this because we didn't win. We should have beat that team. And now these athletes are putting so much on the fact that our coaches and our parents aren't happy unless we win. That's where we need to make a difference as a coach or a parent. And if the kid is doing the training, the kid is putting in the work, we understand like there's days too when we're not at our best and we fail as adults. We have to make it okay for these athletes to know that it's okay not to win every game. As long as you've put in the time, the work, the energy, you've worked with your teammates to try and go out there and put on the best performance. It's just sometimes you don't win. I think we need to focus on the energy, effort, and focus that our kids are putting into it because they're dedicating a lot of time into that, as we are as parents. And they need to feel that their worth is not because of winning or losing. And I think we'll all go through that as parents of athletes. We go through that as coaches. And I think the more levels we go up, it's more important that our kids aren't identified by winning, losing, or by the sport that they play. The second thing that I've seen is almost perfectionism in sports, right? So we talked about how we don't want our athletes to be defined by winning and losing. But in that, as coaches or parents, we say, hey, you got to do it this way. You got to do it that way. You're paying for private lessons. You're paying for extra training. And now our athletes develop this sense of, I have to do it this way every time. If I'm not perfect in this, if I don't hold the bat in the right place, if I don't follow through the right way, if I don't start in a sprint or whatever out of the blocks the right way, like if I don't do this perfectly, then I'm no good. And I think perfectionism not only is caused by the adults and coaches and things like that in these young athletes' lives, I think you can also look to comparison, right? So technology is great. Instagram, all these things are great. But like now our kids who have phones at an earlier age, they start seeing all these other kids and, oh, well, I didn't get this shine or I didn't get this, or because my team lost in this game, like they're not talking about me. I think comparison is a detriment to young athletes as well. And now it's starting younger and younger. I know I'm probably show my age when I say this, but really the only way we could compare ourselves is if you picked up a magazine like Street and Smith or something like that. Like people probably don't even know what Street and Smith magazine is, but Street and Smith was a way that we were able to see rankings of all these other players. And so we didn't have the instant access. Like it was a subscription that came out probably every 3 to 4 months and you could order it and that kind of stuff. So, but now with technology and being able to instantaneously compare yourself to somebody else, you got kids that are going on websites looking what are they averaging? What am I averaging? What's their team record? What's our team record? Thinking that player's not as good as me. I'm better than that player. But then like, that's where the thought of, I just have to do it right every single time comes into effect. And that can really break down a player. They not only through winning and losing, but now through trying to be perfect all the time with everything they do, that becomes a burden. It becomes a weight that these young athletes don't need to have. And the reality is, why should we expect that as their parents or as their coaches, right? We don't get everything right. We're not perfect. I've messed up parenting. I've messed up coaching. Probably a really good story when it comes to coaching is I took a job as the head varsity coach at Prairie High School here in Cedar Rapids, Iowa. And the team hadn't done great a couple years before. And so I came in thinking like, I can turn this around. if we do it this way every day, every practice, every game, if we execute like we're going to win. But what I didn't realize in that is I was putting my own pressure on my players. I was expecting them to run every play right. I was expecting them to run every drill right. And by doing that, I created this cloud over the team where my players were afraid to mess up. And when they did, they felt like, okay, I'm coming out of the game. Coach is going to be mad. And so they started to play tight. Like they weren't the players that I saw them day in and day out in the gym. They were players that felt like they had restraints on them. And I think that's what happens when we put this undue pressure on them when it comes to being perfect every time or winning every game. And so I think as parents, we need to step back and realize, hey, like we're all human. They're going to make mistakes. And the biggest thing that our kids want is our support, our enthusiasm, and then our understanding when they don't perform to the level that, they think they should. It's okay. Put your arm around them. Give your kid a hug. I think that's one way that we can kind of work through this. But then it comes to being able to have that conversation, because we have to be open to listening to our young athletes, what they need, what they want, and how they want to move forward in the sport that they love. Burnout is real. It's real in youth sports. And I think there are a few contributing things to burnout in youth sports. One of the things I think is probably the most prevalent is specialization at a young age. There are young athletes that at the age of 8, 9, 10 years old, parents are putting them like, you are a baseball player. So everything they do is baseball, baseball, baseball. We're starting to see injuries at younger ages, especially in sports like baseball, in probably more of the warmer states, because they're able to play the sport year round. And you're starting to see Tommy John surgery in young pitchers that haven't even got to high school yet because of the overuse of that arm. So one of the things we did as parents of athletes is we wanted our kids to have balance. So once again, it's a blessing to have 2 kids that play in the NBA. And I think the question I get most times is like, has basketball been the only thing that they played? Nope, it isn't. As a parent, we wanted balance for our kids at an early age. So they play baseball, soccer, they play golf, along with basketball, flag football. They did all these different things. We would come home from a baseball tournament and mom and dad just want to chill. It's been a long weekend, hot in the sun. And then Chris and Keegan would want to go to the gym and shoot. Are you sure? Like, dude, we've been outside playing or outside in the sun all weekend. We just want to chill. But they had this fire when it came to basketball. And so they kept playing. They played baseball, played basketball, they golfed. But then they got to a point around 8th grade where they said, Dad, we really want to focus on basketball. This is what we want to do. We want to go to college. We want to play basketball in college. And so we made the decision then. I say we, because it wasn't mom and dad. It was we as a family that they wanted to focus on basketball. And that was okay. But I told them then, if this is what you want to focus on, then we really have to focus on it. And what that meant was, hey, if we're coming to the gym, we need to work on these things. After we work through our fundamentals, our ball handling, our shooting, our passing, our defense, then you could have the rest of the gym as long as you want it. And I said, just give me 45 minutes. I go, give me 45 minutes of your time to be focused, lasered in, and do these drills, and then you can do whatever. That 45 minutes usually turned into 2 hours. It turned into 2 hours because those boys were so passionate about playing a game of basketball that they wanted to do everything, play every game, every shooting game, one-on-one. They competed, but it was their dream. It was their process. And we listened to them because they knew what they wanted to do. But we knew that for them to get to that point, we wanted them to try all these other things. And it's turned out okay. And so if I can ask, like, don't specialize too early. Let your kids try everything. And when they're ready to make the commitment, make the commitment. And I know some of you parents are thinking, well, if we let them do that and they're not committed to one sport. There's all these other kids that are specializing, and our kids are behind. Well, think about this. Think about the kids that specialized early. Think about the kids that were told like they're the next great player in whatever sport. Where are they now? Have they burned out? Did they stop playing in high school because they were so dominant at a young age and they stopped growing? They were playing center, dominating kids because in 8th grade, they were 6'2" and bigger than everybody else. And now they're 6'2". And they're not dominating and they've given up the game. It happens. That's the reality of sports. And that's the reality of specializing, I think, at an early age is there's a higher chance that your kids will burn out. So give them balance. Let them be kids. Go outside, play. Go golf. Go kick the ball around. Okay? Go play baseball. And then let them make the decision to focus on the sport that they want to focus on. And I'm not saying it's going to work for everybody, but it's just an option. It's just a tip. All right, so this last part is all about tips that we can share. And as a parent, I think there's a few things that we really need to focus on. And one of them I spoke about a little bit earlier, communication. Talk to your kid. What are their dreams? What are their goals? They're not going to be the same as yours. You hear it a lot that, oh, that's that parent that's living through their kid. Let your kid's dream be your kid's dream. I know I was blessed to have a great high school career, a pretty good college career, and I played professional basketball for a while. And there was a time that I was living through my kids, but I had to understand that their journey was going to be different than mine. From the standpoint of how they were raised, to where they grew up at, to their friends, the community we grew up in, it's all different than what I had. And so I had to learn to let my kids dream. So open that dialogue. Talk to your kid. Yeah, they may love baseball, but they might want to try something else. They may love baseball. Maybe they want to play soccer because their friends are playing soccer. They love baseball, but maybe they want to play basketball. And they may love baseball and they want to do show choir. It doesn't matter. Let your kids' dream be their dream. But it starts with parents talking to their kids. It's the same for coaches. A coach may see a kid and think that he has more potential than any other player that he's ever had. But have that talk with him. What do you want? Where do you want to take this baseball thing, this basketball thing, this soccer thing, this softball thing, whatever it is? Where do you want to take it? And have that dialogue. The next thing is create achievable goals. I think if you have a kid, there's a great example. There's a friend of mine. I know he has 4 kids, but they started this trend. So as a family, they go to the gym and they shoot shots and they keep track of them. And they created these goals, like I want to make X number of shots every time they go out and they practice. And so they started keeping track. And now they've kept track so long, like he knows exactly how many shots his kids have made. And I think his oldest has made well over 100,000 shots. And she's a freshman in high school. And to keep track, but it was a goal that they set that every time they went out, hey, let's make 200 shots this practice. Let's make 100 free throws. And those are really, really achievable goals, because if you keep your goals simple and achievable, as the kids get older, it's like, okay, well, now they're shooting better. So we're making 200 shots might have taken an hour and a half. Now it takes 30 minutes. So now you increase that. Make it achievable because of the level of skill that has gone up. Now you can add on to it. So keep those goals achievable and make sure you stick to them. And make sure that your child, whatever that goal is, understands like, hey, we're going to keep building. As you get better, we're going to keep building. If that's what they want to do. It may turn in like, hey, I want to come in and work on my ball handling. It's different than the last time you're in there. Okay, well, we're going to do ball handling for 30 minutes, but you have to be able to do these moves. Okay, you have to be able to do this between the legs, behind the back, whatever it is. You have to do this before we move to the next one. Keep it achievable. I think everybody will be happy with the results. Make time for breaks. It's balance. Take some time off. A lot of the sports run right into each other. If you have a kid that plays multiple sports, like our daughter was volleyball, basketball, softball, track. 4 sports. And if you think about it, as you go from volleyball to basketball, in high school you go to track, travel softball, and then it starts all over again with volleyball. Give your kid a break. Maybe they like doing a sport because it's fun, it's with their friends, but give them a break. Let them be kids. Family vacation, something. Make sure that they take time for rest and recovery. Because every level you go up, the players get better, the skill get better, but the most important thing is rest and recovery. Because if you're constantly going and you're not giving your body a chance to recover, injuries happen. It's a setback. Now, with that setback, you got to work so much harder to get back to where you were. And then, even in that, if you have to recover, give yourself time. Stick with the plan, whether it's rehab, physical therapy, those kind of things. Don't rush. Because if you rush to get back, something else happens. You compensate for one injury, you create another one. So make time for breaks with your young athlete. And the last thing that I want to tell parents is keep the sports fun. You think about it, right? College sports, professional sports, they're all games. The same thing that people are doing at the highest level started when they were a kid, and it was a game. So keep it fun. I think if we keep the game fun, that's where the love comes, right? The love of the game comes when you keep it fun. I make a joke all the time, and hopefully nobody will take this too serious, but I say that Chris and Keegan love the game of basketball so much that they would play for free. I know they would, because they've created this love affair with the game that they know it's what they're supposed to do. They're in their element. They love playing. They love being on teams. They love the camaraderie, all those things that come with the game of basketball. And that can be lost through college and professionals. But they still have that same love of the game they had when they started shooting jump shots across our living room floor at 14 months old. And that's what it has to be. Like, it's such a good feeling when you watch your kid enjoy what they're doing. And so if there's anything, I think it's the most important thing for parents. Keep the game fun. And coaches, you can learn from that too. Make the game fun. Like I talked earlier about how I came in as this varsity coach and I was just about winning and doing things perfectly. What I had to do the next year was listen to my players. My players, we had a senior leadership group. They talked to all their teammates and they came back to myself and the rest of the coaching staff and said, these are the things that we need in order for us to reach our potential as a team. And we took that and we understood that. And that year, we made the game fun. We were one game away from winning a conference championship. We were one game away for qualifying for state. But at the end of the year, the girls had fun. And they really respected myself and the rest of the coaching staff for listening to them, for taking into account the things that they needed as athletes to be the best version of themselves every time they came on the court for practice and every time they went out for competition. So it comes down to this. Listening to your kids, making time for breaks, and then keeping the game fun. I think if we do those things, not only are we going to help our kids become the best athletes they can become, we're going to help them become the best people they can become. And we're going to kick this mental health thing in the butt when it comes to youth sports. Well, I first want to say thanks for taking the time, listening, watching, whatever you're doing. But remember, we're in this together. And hopefully some of the tips that I gave today can help you as a parent or as a coach. But if you have any questions at all, you can reach out through my social media platforms, or you can go to kenyonmurray.com and shoot me a message there. So until next time, let's keep connected.